All right. Well, welcome to Connect and Create. And it's wonderful to be here with all of you. It's wonderful to have you here, Clementine Willowilde. And what episode are we at? We are at episode 55. Oh my gosh, 5 is my favorite number. So we are double 5. So here we are at episode 55. And we have the extraordinary, the amazing Clementine Willowilde. I'm Karina Sephora, and it's wonderful to be here with all of you at episode 55. We have the fabulous Betsy Stark here with us in the Zoom audience.
Yay.
All of you on our Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. And Clementine, anything you'd like to share before I give your formal introduction?
No, I'll go into it after the introduction.
All right. It's so good to see you again, by the way. I think it's been years. Social media, we see each other on social media, and that's what gave me the idea to invite you here. So thank you. And by the way, this is, as I said, episode 55. It's been a year and a couple of weeks that I've been hosting this Connect and Create. And partway along the lines, I applied for a grant from the Fulton County Council for the Arts. And guess what? Thank you, Fulton County Council for the Arts, for contributing to creating this show. I'm looking at what's the future of this show going to be, and it's probably going to not be every single week because things have picked up so much. So I'm super happy that we're having it today, and I'm happy for the episodes that we have scheduled. And I'm going to share with you a little about our amazing Clementine Willowilde. Clementine Willowilde is an Atlanta artist who creates colorful pieces that detail emotionally rich, abstract landscapes. She uses color and line to depict the relationship between memories and time. Different areas of the compositions correspond, yet never truly reveal the chronology or sensuality of their meeting. Her artwork illuminates the interplay of spatial energy, both internal and external, in relation to the human experience of time, with a focus on the complex, layered beauty it creates.
Yay!
Clementine Willowilde, yay! Thanks for being here.
Thanks everyone. Yay! I'm happy to be here. Thank you for that introduction, and I wrote that out and I realized that it needs a little bit of context. You know, I feel like we as humans experience time linear, but a lot of it is still caked on top of itself with human emotion and then context of, you know, relationships and even to the things that we have around us that are inanimate. So I wanted to get a sense of how my brain is actually taking in all this information and what that might look like as an art piece. And so that's kind of what it started out as, is just these doodles that were like a moment in time or a space. So I might pick like a corner in Atlanta that we all have some sort of, you know, feeling about people who live in Atlanta, and we all have memories of. And as you live in a place, especially, you know, if you've been there for years and years and years and years, this one corner can have all of these different emotions attached to it and thoughts where you were at when you were out on that corner at that time. So I really wanted to try to figure out how I would interpret that in a piece. So that's kind of what my artwork is about. But I'm not going to talk so much about my personal art today, only because I've really been interested in seeing how different artists do their business side of things. And I feel like it's not something that well, when I was in art school, it wasn't the focus. You're trying to learn the technical skills, so you're not really, you know, they're not asking you like, well, how many posts are you making a day? Do you know, like maybe you have a website, but you're just putting like photos on. Well, what about the descriptions of those photos? You know, descriptions are really important for search engines, for example, and for people understanding your art. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to like give a little presentation today about some of the ways that I'm functioning, and then just some of the questions that I'm hoping might help some folks try to figure out how they want to do their business, or maybe, I don't know, just maybe be inspiring. So feel free to chime in anytime that you'd like to, Karina or Betsy, if you have anything you want to share, because I don't know as much about Betsy, but I do know Karina is a wonderful business lady and artist, entrepreneur, and has been for years. So lots of good insight there. Do you want to say anything, Karina?
Well, about which part?
Well, anything you're inspired to, but specifically maybe the business part a little bit.
Well, I mean, well, first of all, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about being an artist and a business person. I think it's an important conversation to have. And I mean, I know myself, you know, my first day of art school, they said 1% of all art school students will go on to make a living once they get out of art school. And to me, that was like, that was not really what I wanted to go for, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, having the wherewithal to be a business person was what I saw was important to do. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I went the first 15 years of my life like, okay, I'm going to make a living as an artist. You know, that was like a challenge that I took on. And I took courses with people who were entrepreneurs, because I thought entrepreneurs was the most, you know, the closest to being an artist that one could be, and, you know, like move forward like that. So
I think that's fascinating. So I had this interesting conversation with a friend who said, well, Clem, I feel like maybe you're getting further away from your art because you're getting more businessy. And I said, well, that could be true in one respect, but also I'm actually trying to make a living at it, which means I have to make money from it, which means that whatever my goal is might require some sort of exchange and with someone that I, you know, am kind of, we have a mutual understanding of either money or resource or something. So, you know, I think forced into those lines of relationship and communication as a business, I think some people are really upset with how much context of the personal is lost sometimes, and how much focus on marketing and money and, you know, kind of the things that we all know like matter, but they don't matter. So yeah, without further ado, I will start my presentation, which let me share my screen here. And I think I will have to make it large again. Let's see, how do I do this? Please give me one moment, guys, as I'm make full screen. Okay. So I have been told that the bottom is cut off a little bit, but since I'm still new to this, I'm gonna just kind of see how it goes. So the title of my presentation is "It's Your Bicycle, Ride It How You Want to," and by that I mean, you know, it's your art life. You know, how do you want to live it? How do you want to be in the world? How do you want people to experience your art and you? And I mean, I feel like especially now because of like the whole online market, you can kind of do like all sorts of stuff. Like I can't even believe what's coming out. NFTs, freaking Banksy shredding his art and, you know, like all this kind of crazy stuff. So, so here we go.
What's the NFT?
Oh yeah, okay, so I might have to look this up because I can't remember right off the bat what NFT stands for. If someone remembers, throw it into the chat and we'll see if I can get it. But basically it's a new form of I guess documenting art, but it's collectible. So they're creating kind of a new culture of like art tech that people will pay. I mean, I think they just had someone pay 69 million, I think, for an artist NFT. I'm going to show a little picture of it. And I should have done maybe a little bit more research for context, but I just kind of wanted to like throw the idea out there to just be like, new, weird. So I've got the picture of the world here because I just want to emphasize that the world is so big. There's so many cultures, there's so many understandings. Just be anything that you really feel like you want to be and do, because someone out there is going to connect with it. It's true that you know, there's like very popular ideas and ways of being, but like, isn't it so amazing when you find something that you've never seen before? Like, the only way to do that is for that person to be exactly who they are, doing exactly what they are, you know, born to do, basically. And so if they never did that, you probably wouldn't see that thing. You probably wouldn't experience it that way. And I just think that's like amazing. So I wanted to start out there. Then I wanted to say that I started out as a ceramicist, and basically it took me, I want to be like honest about this. I had a lot of depression when I was like in my early 20s. I don't know if a lot of people deal with that, but it was really difficult. And it actually took me like 8 years to get through college. And meanwhile, like my sister was getting like dual degrees in like 4 years. And I felt like kind of downtrodden about where I was and who I was and what I was doing. Did you guys ever have any experiences like that, Betsy or Karina?
Oh, I had a period of time right after graduate school where I just felt like nothing was going my way. And, you know, I had this whole community around me. I applied for teaching jobs all over the world. And they were like, 500 of you have applied for this job. 1,000 of you have applied. Don't worry. You know, you're so great. You know, they didn't say don't worry, but like I made up, like, gosh, this is terrible. I called it the dark years. And then actually I started doing personal and professional growth and development work. And it just got me to like look at everything in a different way.
Wow. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I think a lot of us artists go through some sort of period where we're just like, what does art even mean? Why are we even making it? What is, I mean, you love it, of course, but it's just like, I like this big piece here. I had to find like a place to put it. And now you have to put it places, you have to interact, you have to continue to make, and it's just such a process. So you kind of have to love it, I think, to really keep doing it. It's probably why they said the 1% only continue in art school. So I have a Sailor Moon picture here because Sailor Moon is for peace, love, and justice. That's her values. And I was like, what are my values as an artist? So I'm gonna tell you, it's to make things that are beautiful. And by beautiful, I also mean potentially challenging, because I think beauty for us has a little moment of like self-awareness and challenge. And then I wanted to make things that are inspiring. I kind of like making things that are useful, but that's because I like them to be a part of my day. And so I realized, like, given these values, my art's probably not going to just sit in a gallery. It could, because it could be part of someone's day in a museum, for example. But if it's like a normal part of the day, then it might be in their house, or they might even be interacting with it. And I like that idea. I like interacting with my own art. So this is where you can actually, I put a link in the chat, and you can sign on, and you can actually comment when I have these posts that have a little pear at the bottom. And so I'm asking people, what are your values as an artist? And you'll be able to go actually back into I think the Pear Deck website and like review this. So you can see other people's comments on this if they're joining later.
Now, can I just ask a clarification?
Yes,
you said when you see the pear on it, now you mean in the chat on Zoom or in Pear Deck?
Thank you for pointing that out. So I'm not sure what you guys can see on my screen. I'm I suspect you can see almost everything, but there's a little pear down in the corner of the presentation on the slide. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, and you know what? I hate to say it, but I don't think, like, if I try and click it, I don't think it would.
I don't think it's a click thing. I think it's just an indicator of this is a moment where you can kind of chime in or comment.
Oh, okay. But we would put it in the chat of Zoom.
Yeah, I put in the chat of Zoom, I put the link to the presentation. And basically, if you have your phone, if you're watching this on your computer and you have your phone, you can log in and see the presentation as it's going and be able to comment.
I'm going to try and recopy it because we've had a couple new people join. Welcome, Annalise, and welcome, Sandra.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an experiment, but I still think it's like a worthwhile, you know, like learning tech is just, I mean, always a challenge, but usually worth it. So
something I've learned, I just recopied it. Something I've learned, if people come into a Zoom room after you've made a comment, they can't see previous, they can't see older comments. So I just recopied it. So Annalise and Sandra, if you want, you're welcome to play along too, as well as Betsy and myself.
Excellent. Yep. So that's a good thing to be aware of. I'll try to copy it and post it again at the end, just in case anyone who's watching it later wants to join in. So let's see. So I bring up this form because it's functional and it's also beautiful and it's also a really well-known piece of art history. I forget what it's called. So if anyone remembers, that's not how my brain works, but anyway, so functional and beautiful, maybe not beautiful and also not really functional. However, somehow inspiring. The elf on a shelf. And I just brought this up because like somehow this is like a craze. I don't really understand it, but people really like it. It's maybe not art, but you know, if your art pretty much exists like an elf on a shelf, then you know, that's a question is I guess that's what you want. And that's not a problem. I bring this up, this piece, because it's pretty much an elf on the shelf, but it's a beautiful elf on the shelf. And this artist does all of these like crazy, wild, colorful, just like gooey looking things. So really, you know, let your values guide you, I think is the name of the game. So this is another one where you can interact, and it says, how do you want people to interact with your art? And I mean, it's a pretty normal question, but I came up with pretty answers. So this is some of my pieces in their like pre-finished phase. And I had to really ask myself, like, what can I do? Okay, like for me, what can I do that's like every day, that's something really simple, sustainable, that I'm gonna create no matter what, that I don't have to think a lot about? Because if I put any of those parameters, like if I have to think about it a lot or make a lot of time, I'm not going to do it. I'm just that person. So these are like the doodles that I do, and I do have to sit down and actually do them. But once I'm sitting down, they're usually just like automatic. So I wanted to figure out what I could do with that and how I could translate that into like an art career. So I'm just showing like a couple of my pieces. So I put out this wild idea for myself to basically try to have a piece in every home in America, which sounds really ridiculous, I think, on some level. But what it did is it kind of made me go, well, not everyone's probably going to have like a piece on the wall. So how does my art translate into something that people would use or be interacting with on a daily basis? I mean, and that could really be anywhere too. It could be on an ad. It could be somewhere else, you know, in it could be architecture that, you know, people interact with architecture. But it really just allowed me to like challenge myself to figure out what I really am interested in. So Yep. Are you a crazy person? Maybe. So then this is another one where you can chime in, and it's, what is your ridiculous goal? And actually, I would like to ask Karina if she has any ridiculous goals.
Oh, let's see. I have a couple ridiculous goals. One is that I would be in the Venice Biennale.
Ooh, I like that.
And I'm actually working on that goal with a friend. I said it pays to say these out loud. I said it out loud to a curator friend of mine, and she said, "Oh." So now, like, she's been laying out the different steps. There's a couple ways you can be in the Venice Biennale. You can be like invited to the main stage, or you can have a satellite venue. And so we're looking at the satellite venue. I've also, another one of my ridiculous goals is to be invited to the Whitney Biennial. And ironically, another time that I said that, the friend that I shared it with said, "Oh, my best friend from elementary school is a curator there." I looked it up. He's the head curator. So that's another thing that's kind of on and off again. She decided she wanted to reconnect with him, rather than just like we kind of formulated a letter for her to introduce me. And this was a little while ago, and she's since like had a baby and been busy, but at any rate, so you never know when you say your ridiculous goal out there in the world, like who's listening. And it's like 3 degrees of separation. Is that how they say? 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, I think also like setting ridiculous goals just kind of like makes your brain work a little bit differently too, to like kind of figure out how would you even go about, what would you do differently, for instance, to like get there, or think about differently, or whatever. So thank you for sharing that. So this is a picture of the NFT, and this sold for 69 million. And what my understanding of it is that it's actually a collection of art that this artist did, but these are all of the digital formats, I guess, of it compiled as a file or something. So I think like literally now, if I'm understanding this correctly, and someone can correct me in the chat if I'm not understanding it the right way, that it's basically the digital content, the digital footprint of the art, and that is what they are selling. So I'm gonna look more into this. If you want to talk about it later on, maybe I'll be your expert, maybe not. But I thought it was really cool that basically art is kind of transferring, now there's augmented reality. So the idea of people actually getting on their phone and interacting piece see on the wall, it's not really there, but when they open their phone app, maybe all of a sudden they just see your piece of artwork on the wall, for example, or maybe it's a sculpture that's sitting in the middle of the room. Like that's the kind of thing that is available to us now that wasn't previously. It's kind of a weird idea, or a weird new reality. Then also I brought up the Banksy it's shredding thing. And I don't know why, I just really love this, but I love the idea of impermanent art anyway. And I don't like the idea of like destroying art necessarily, but I think it's an artist's prerogative whether to keep or destroy. And so I was kind of like really had a nice laugh at this. And then there's just art that you make. I mean, like I love graffiti artists because they're just, I don't know, like it's kind of like they just decide to share their art with everyone, and they put it somewhere where they can. And it's like they got a goal, a purpose, and then execution. And then I just wanted to highlight like that some people are doing like something as silly as miniatures, which are really charming. And this one is of all these little places. This artist does little places that used to exist in LA. And there's no other reason for it to exist other than as a material memory, basically. And I just thought that was like really, really interesting. So we can really push ourselves as artists, I think, in like lots of different directions. So with that, I have another comment if you want. And I have a name a tiny thing that you can do towards that goal today. So that like ridiculous goal that we talked about. And what I had decided was that I was going to make a piece of art a day for 100 days, because I just hadn't really been able to like sit down and do art every single day. I know that some people don't have that problem, and then there are still lots of us that do. So so I started making these little pieces, and then I kept making these pieces, and I have almost 100 of them now. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, well, now I have a bunch of product, and now I'm like, well, what do I do with it? You know, so I have it on a website, I'm selling it, sure, but that's not really like, unless people buy it, they're not interacting with it. And so it's really pushed me to be like, all right, so now I'm manufacturing. What is the next goal? What is the next step to where I want to be as an artist? So I put this up here because I really feel like this is what we forget. It's university or not, gallery or not, online or not, doesn't really matter. It really has to do with who you are as a person and what you want people to experience out of your vision. And so I feel like, you know, you don't have to go to the university to get a degree, and you don't have to do the gallery. And if you don't want to do things online, of course, there's public artwork like Karina does. And, you know, graffiti, if you don't want to get a grant and you don't want to even be legal, you know, like, there's really a lot of ways to get it out there. Now, how to monetize it, that's a different question, really. But I don't think it matters exactly how, you know, you basically start out.
Hey, can I say something to what you just brought up? Which
Please.
is really great points. I can think of 3 artists that started out their careers as graffiti artists, who are some of the top selling artists in the world, right?
Yes.
Jean-Michel Basquiat, he was a graffiti artist, right? A street artist.
Yeah.
Banksy was a street artist. And then do you know the artist called Cause from New York City? Another one where his work is like, you know, worth millions and millions of dollars. And so it is kind of interesting, right? You can think like, oh, you know, oh, I've got to do it the right way, versus like, I'm going to get my art out in the world no matter what, right? Maybe it's some of that attitude. I'm going to just do it no matter what.
I think so. I think
Keith Haring, Annalise is calling in from Poland, by the way.
Oh, sweet. That's great. Yeah, exactly. I feel like we get too bogged down in like putting parameters on ourselves and limitations of thought, like, oh, I have to have a degree, or I have to understand better. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like encourage people to, you know, get into art history and understand why they're doing stuff and what's the context of what they're putting out right now versus like, you know, so understand how you fit in the world and the world of art specifically as well. But even if you don't completely understand, maybe what you're making is what is needed right now in the world. Who knows? Someone might really need to see whatever you're creating, and it might really change something about the way they're thinking, and that might be very important. So butterfly effect there, I guess. If you have a goal like me, I have a couple things that you can do. So I thought I would lay that out. Get a website or shop. If you want to be an online person, get a website or a shop, but I don't think you need like necessarily a website anymore. You could just literally get a shop. Like lots of people start out with Etsy. They do things like Redbubble. Now, whether, you know, people, I feel like this is going into territory where it's like, is this art? Do we approve? And I'm not going to go into that. I think if you're trying to monetize, then it's just part of doing that. But yeah, get a website or a shop. You can comment if you have a few that you've heard of. I just named Etsy and Redbubble, but you can also do a Shopify. There's a couple of other options that people use. And then create a profile on a shareable platform. And yeah, Facebook, obviously, here we are, connect and create. Most people have an Instagram right now, but I would say any profile where you can actually share things that you're doing, content and things about yourself. That used to be a website. Like I remember when the World Wide Web started and artists were like, oh, we have to have an online portfolio. And they would just put everything on their website. And then you would like give out your card with your URL and be like, go to my website. And now we just search someone and then, you know, their Facebook comes up, their Instagram, like lots of the social media sites come up before your website will, you know, just because that's what is being interacted with. And that's part of the SEO, the search engine optimization. So what are your favorite social media platforms? I'm going to use social media, but it could be any platform where you have a profile and it's shareable content. And then optimize. And by that, I mean like, gosh, I'm just now learning about like keywords and like how important descriptions are and alt tags and all this stuff that's not artsy. It's not fun. Some people like it somewhere out there. That's probably not us artists, but you know, it's important. If you can't hire someone, then you got to learn it on your own.
I would love to hear more about this. This is great. Congratulations on doing this.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, actually, anyone who wants to talk about strategies or tools that I use or anything, you can please send me a question. You can chat with me. We can do an Instagram live. We can do a Facebook live. I love figuring these things out and talking to people about this stuff. I think it's kind of the only way that it makes it fun for me is if I get to talk about it and like interact. And then we're really near the end. So yeah, it feels too easy. Yeah, it is. Like, just like people, you think like, oh, hi, how are you? These like little interactions are so easy, but they have so much information in them. And similar online, just starting a profile, just sharing content, it's not going to get you anywhere fast. You kind of have to like keep at it. And here's where I really love like the reason that I love that Karina's doing this particular project is because I know how long she's been at it, just as an artist, just doing her thing, constantly moving in other little directions and, you know, re-strategizing for what is available and who's around. And, you know, and maybe she's not thinking about it like quite that intensely. Karina, you can comment if you want to, but I see you just continuing to work and munch on things and like basically doing what this is, refining, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I could say something briefly to that. When I first opened my studio, I also did architectural metalwork. And remember those big goals that I talked about, like the Venice Biennale and the, you know, and what do you call it? The Whitney. Yeah, I was like making, you know, and I was like, I always saw that making gates and railings, you know, as a metal sculptor was a means to an end, so that I could buy the equipment I needed and support my studio and everything. And there was this day that I was like in the studio, and I was like, you know what? The Whitney is not going to call me up and say, Karina, you've been making some great gates. We want you to finally have your solo show. It's just not going to happen. And so over time, now I mentioned I took marketing courses and, you know, courses with entrepreneurs. And so I would look at my profit and loss statements about what I was making, what my income was. And I created having a trifecta. That's 3 different sources of income. I made up that word. For this application. And every year I would make new goals around how much money I would make during doing commissions, right? Versus teaching a class or selling a piece of art outright, you know, either through a gallery or a museum or open studio or something like that, right? Or directly to a collector. And so I just kind of kept focusing on the fact that I was going to have my sculpture and my paintings be what supported me more so than anything else. And so I've actually found this wonderful happy medium, which is public art. Mm-hmm. So I do some public art commissions. In fact, I have a big commission tomorrow that I'm a finalist for. So that's just a little bit about my take on that. Hopefully that was the direction you were wanting.
Oh, yeah.
But it came with being intentional, right? Creating intentionality and creating a group of people around me that was supportive of what I was up to and who did I see myself as being in the world.
I'm really glad you bring that up, because I think that that's really important. And also that in some sense, you just have to be so dogged about who you want to be in the world and not how other people see you, because it's too easy to just go along with what everyone else sees, and what they see is not always it's not the full picture, obviously. And then also they don't know where you really want to go. Even if they do, they have a different idea about how to get there. And, so I feel like, right, please, yeah, find the people that are going to be your cheerleaders. And I mean, I see that it can go the wrong direction. Maybe, some people don't have enough critics in their corner to tell them when something's not working. And that's a whole other like talk we could have, but you definitely have to have people that are, kind of cheering you on for what they know you're capable of and want to see from you. And I think, and I was going to just show some people that I'm looking at right now. There's not a ton of them, but I actually, so my strategy for trying to figure out where I am in the art world is that I realize I'm an online entrepreneur and an artist, and that I will be selling online primarily. And so I'm looking at people who have similar follower count. So Esteban actually has a similar follower count to me. But he is doing something actually kind of the opposite. He's going gallery, he's going collection. He doesn't do any selling directly from his website unless you directly message him. I see a lot of, professional artists going this direction. I can't talk a lot about that because it's not really where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I feel like that's a pretty common way to approach art. So I don't actually need to comment on that part. I can comment more about like the one in the middle, Stacy Bloomfield, who is doing like workshops online, and she has a book, and she's doing quilting, but she's also doing like painting. And so she's kind of like this, I think she's figured out whatever her energy is, whatever her vision is, she can kind of put it in these different directions in different ways. And so she has a huge follower account here, but that doesn't necessarily translate into sales. Oh, okay, so she's at 3,000 on this one. On her other one, I think she's at like 9,000 or something. And then this other fellow, George Willowilde, he does actually illustrations for, okay, that works. He does illustrations for some major magazines or yeah, I'll do that. Major magazines and illustrate work like that. And he also does sell online, and his stuff is really, really weird. It's just like so bizarre. And I kind of like put it on there as like this idea of, be just as bizarre as you really want to be because someone's going to appreciate it, like me out in the world. And that's pretty much it. How are we doing on time?
We are doing great. In fact, we're, maybe a couple more minutes. Oh, good. It's perfect timing then. I was just saying a couple more minutes, and then we should do our and then there we go. So thank you. That was just wonderful.
Awesome. Yay.
Do you want to mention anything about anything in your background?
So, I mean, I don't know that, see, it's hard for me because background's important to context. I will give you some of my background, but I feel like there's so many different ways to do things that you'll just know mine. Okay, so my grandfather is an artist, so I've been doing art, some sort of art all my life. I went to art school, but that's not where I started because I was like, I have to make a living. I can't make a living doing art. My grandfather tried, and now we have all of these paintings, and he did sell, but he just didn't ever like really have like the kind of lifestyle he wanted to have, or, I don't know. It's what I find a lot of artists get into is that they are living just up to their means selling art and not really ever getting to the point where they feel stable or like it's like they're making a he really wanted his pieces to be a legacy, you know. So that's pretty common. I went to art school, took me 8 years. I had 5 different majors. I finally landed in ceramics. I was like, I can do this. I can finish school finally. I did sculpture. That's how I met you. And I loved that. And then I was so tired of being in the studio. I was like, what can I do while I'm out? So I was doing like drawings and comics, and I did like little origami sculptures and stuff like that. And then finally in 2011, I was making these little doodles, and I'm like, well, I can do this. It's another moment where I was like, I can do this. I can keep doing this. Where can this take me? I'm just going to keep going until I figure out where it takes me. And so I feel like that's just been a lot of my journey, is being like, what is the simplest little block that I can figure out? And then just taking that block and continuing to like use it to build in other spaces. So yeah, that's that's basically it.
Great. Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you so much. It was wonderful. I love the presentation you put together. I'm so happy we had that on Facebook Live as well for other people to get to appreciate and enjoy. And do we have any questions from anyone in our live Zoom audience? Betsy or Annalise, Sandra, anyone? And I'll check and look and see if there's any questions on our Facebook Live.
Sweet.
Or comments, questions or comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess in the meantime, let's see. So yeah, it feels too easy. Yeah, it is.
There's a delay. I was trying to look on the Facebook Live thing, and there was a delay. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Sound bites. Betsy, what you got?
Oh, I just really appreciate what you were saying. And I was years ago, there was some career counselor, and she said, look at everything you like different plates, and some plates will be bigger and some plates will be smaller and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of one of the things you're talking about here. Sephora Karina talking about that too, in terms of, you can teach, you can do all kinds of things, and you want to have a balance of those things. So it's a matter of prayer, because it's hard when you have a lot of interests, of what you're going to, it's quite a balance. But anyway, so this has been really interesting. So you can do a lot of different things. You have a lot of different skills, even though you majored in sculpture.
Right. Yeah.
That's great.
But, I think that what's interesting about the idea of trying to share yourself in a small moment is that as an artist, you have like one little thing or one little moment that kind of defines you, and you can, many different ways can you put that out in the world. And if you are really good at teaching, I mean, good teachers are gold. And so if that's how you can do it, then do that. And like, if you want to make art, I mean, make art, but also it's just kind of like, I think people get too bogged down in feeling like they have to present themselves as like wildly successful, or that they have all this expertise that, I mean, you do need expertise, but you need expertise in very specific areas. Like, I could teach you guys something about what I do with Posca markers. And like, I'm just really good at that, but that doesn't mean that I'm like really good at all markers.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, there's always people will give advice. Like, you go over to someone's house and they have a good meal. You should open a restaurant. Well, they're definitely going to go out of business, because they got to learn how to run a business and how to cook for a mass market. I mean, it's crazy. It's a nice thing to say. You can't listen to really just about anything that people say.
No, it's true, right? Well, they don't know. Yeah. They just don't know.
They don't. But with my friends, artist friends, we say people just don't understand why we do it, because I'm a textile artist. So, people are knitting socks and towels and everything you can go buy. So why would anybody do that? Well, it's like, I just love touching the fabric and, the sewing and the things like that. And I do very slow work,
Mhm.
and I just, no, it cannot be mass produced.
Yeah.
But my pleasure is just in the pleasure of the doing.
Mhm.
It's not in having. I'm not going to go to Target and walk through and see a section. that would not be anything for me. So people have to, and then people have a hard time appreciating that. Since you can go and buy socks, why would you knit a beautiful sock? Well, this is what we do.
Mhm.
But and then not, being nice to people because you want them maybe to gift them something.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's such a hard, so I feel like this is what I just see so much is people, you have all these, what you've just noted is all the externals, that people are like, well, they don't appreciate this, or they don't understand like the process, or they have all these ideas about the ways things can go, and then they're not really that applicable, or they involve some sort of process that's not going to be what you do. It's not who you are, how. So like, but then we do it to ourselves. We're like,
yeah,
well,
I know.
right.
You got to really watch it,
Mm-hmm.
Like my husband and I, we successfully did some home improvements. And then my brother told me we should go flip houses for a living. Yeah. Well, it's like, no, we do not need to do that. But it was like, it's so crazy. So we have to kind of learn how to deal with the crazy people.
Right.
Yeah, can I chime in here? Because this conversation is really great. I was listening, and Karina can actually say, Annalise, you're way off the mark. But this lady, Betsy, bringing up the flipping houses and monetary. I put a comment in the chat about how Andy Warhol apparently famously made a comment about, well, why not like business and art? Like apparently he really had quite a great relationship with business and art. He knew how to monetize art. He didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And I've had a challenge. I'm as not so much a creator, but I've been approached to be a partner with an artist or an actor, or obviously money. Let's just get straight to the point. Uh-huh. People have asked me to invest. And what's very interesting things that Betsy and Clem have brought up is that, my father comes from a very business monetary background and really does not understand, and probably to a very certain degree appreciate art. Like kind of Betsy sort of, you get the practical part. Mm-hmm. And what I would just, what I find difficult is this time of the pandemic where there's so much art, mm-hmm. not just applied art, but performance art, spoken art, written art, just flooding the internet. And I'm in Poland, by the way. And so via Facebook, like you're talking about, and certain other venues, people it's just all over the place. And what kind of concerns me as sort of the discriminating buyer, for lack of a better word, or the discriminating investor, it occurs to me that a lot of artists do not know about money. Mm-hmm. Or there is a weak relationship or young relationship, as Karina and I would get, between the money and the art. And so that's what I found difficult as someone who's been approached. As Betsy said, yes, there's some sort of social conditioning about a Walmart or a Target or something. And I may not know, oh my God, every hour and every stitch the individual has made. And yet at the same time, it's like something that Betsy or Clem or Karina really gets into because you choose it. How would you inspire me to buy it? How would you, as the artist, the performer, the actor, the whomever, inspire me to participate in a monetary partnership if you're doing it because you want to do it? Do you understand what I'm saying? And so it's just this flipping houses. I'll give you a real life example, and I won't name names. Yes, that's it. That's it, Karina. That's it. I got it.
Yeah.
So that's, I can see, because I've actually been approached by artists for money. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't inspired because it was a little off. Mm-hmm. The values, like you're talking about, the values were not the same.
Well, I know we're this $65 million. Good grief. I mean, wow. I mean, who decides that's $65 million?
I couldn't even understand what it was.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I still can't understand what it is, but this digital stuff. But yeah. So we're having a digital meeting right now. I know.
And we're like right with each other. By the way, and Sandra has also made a comment that, the business side of art is probably the hardest part of the art for the artist. And it really is. It's like, it isn't the part that necessarily comes naturally. And there was a day in time where we had like benefactors all the time. I've had benefactors in my life as an artist, right? But what happens, it's the same thing as selling your art, really. It's like you're going to enroll this person in who you are as an artist and what your potential and your future is. And don't they want to be on board with what that is, right? Mm-hmm. And but
you're talking about a patron also, right?
Yeah, patrons, yeah. Or benefactors, similar, right? Mm-hmm. I've had people when I was in my 20s that wanted to give me a no interest loan because I saw I was so motivated and all I needed was just to finish getting my studio set up and I could produce, right? And it was wonderful to be able to pay back a no interest loan with someone who just believed in me, right? Mm-hmm. But Andy Warhol really did say that the artist who is the business person really is that successful artist, right? In so many different ways. So thank you, Clementine, for bringing such a great conversation to the table. What were you going to say?
Yeah. Well, it's schmoozing. You got to really schmooze somebody and really talk it up so people will buy whatever, because they see something in it that's you're pointing out to them.
The schmooze element, I feel like this is what's really off-putting to people is they feel like they have to schmooze. But what if it's more about finding the simplest way of describing yourself and just kind of like putting it out as a beacon, but you have to, it's like that whole optimize and then refine. You kind of have to continue to expand your idea of what that beacon would look like. You have to really like know yourself, like not everyone's schmoozing, and so it like what makes it special. I like it, Betsy, that you said just, and I don't know how much time we have, but I like that you said that it takes you a lot of time because I used to get into meditation and the idea of meditation through work and that whole, like knowing that someone would take 200 hours to make something, for example. I take 2 hours. I'm quick and I'm out of there. I'm like a tornado. If I have to take 200 hours on something, I'm going to basically make 200 pieces right over each other. But like, that's what makes it special though, is that for someone, it's that different process. And if you can describe that well to an audience, I think that they will like it. They will buy it. They will interact.
That's really great. Well, listen, we do have one final question. We are a little bit over time. And so I want to let's take this last question and then we'll wrap it up. And Sandra says, do you feel that the more educated an artist with an MFA versus self-taught makes any difference? This is a great dialogue, especially if you're in the South, I'm going to tell you. Anything you want to say, Clementine?
Well, I don't have an MFA, but I'm also not what I would consider. I'm technically mid-career, but I'm not where everyone else is going to want to be or what they're doing. So I'm literally offering a perspective of this is me as a business person and artist and how I function. When you have a lot of information or you're, versus self-taught, like when you, being in the academy or the university gives you a different set of resources than when you don't have it. Mm-hmm. And I think you just have to work with what you have. So I would say for me, it's not a matter of whether it makes a difference to whether you're an expert or not. It's more like what resources you have. But I don't have an MFA. Anyone want to comment about this?
Anyone else have anything they want to say? It's a great conversation to have in our art and business dialogue today. There are a number of artists right around Atlanta. There's R.A. Miller. I'm drawing a blank. I should look his name up. there's the artist who, tons of work in the High Museum. And in fact, actually, I found in moving to the South, I was sort of like, ooh, I kind of wish I didn't get all these degrees in art. You know, I have a master's degree in art as well as an undergraduate. And it's like, it's really like, there's something about the artists that, there's something about one of, you know, like just these people who are self-taught is really like a huge part of the culture of the South and the art world. Annalise wants to see a slide. Annalise, you know what? It's all on Facebook Live, so you could rewatch anything from the Facebook Live. But we're like about 10 minutes.
All it was just name a tiny thing that you can do, and that I just wanted to finish that sentence.
Oh yeah.
Name it. Can she just repeat it? Name a tiny thing that you can do
each day.
To start your goal today, or something like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, Miss Clementine, any final last words about your something small you can do today, or anything about today?
Actually, I really like these conversations, and if I had to point you in a direction, Karina, I do think that there are not enough organizations that teach the business side or promote, and there are coaches for that, so that's great, and I don't want to put them out of business, but we can really help each other a lot. And so if you even just did a podcast or a whatever, or even just a panel, do panels maybe every 3 months with, you know, artists doing one topic.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea, because
Karina, there is this group called C4 something.
Oh yeah.
I'm a member of this Southeast Fiber Art Alliance, and they came and talked to us about that. Yeah. But also, the Atlanta Regional Commission is creating an artist registry. I just got the contact, and I'll forward that to you. Yeah. And Chambly, all these groups, all these cities have these little public art commissions, and you know, so they're trying to put some things together. It's really interesting. So
yeah, networking is a huge thing. It's not just in business. I think as an artist, I mean, this is how here I am in Asheville, right? I'm getting ready to go make a presentation.
I know, it's very
exciting. For a project. And Sandra Davis and I know each other through the Women's Caucus for the Arts. And I did a brief talk at the National Caucus for Women in the Arts. And that was amazing. And Sandra's been a guest on this show too. Sandra, are you self-taught, or did you go to school for art?
She's got to do some comment.
Who's wants his networking? Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, 2 years. Okay, great. So yeah, the National Caucus for Women in the Arts, there's a local Georgia chapter, and then there's a national chapter. It's really, really great. I mean, I love meeting other artists. That's a big part of why I do this. But, you know, I'm looking at recreating this because in my, you know, work week, that every Tuesday has kind of gotten to be a little challenging. So I've been looking at how can I move this to like once a month. I know I saw that look from you, Betsy, because you come regularly. And Annalise, I know you're a regular for a long time.
That's okay. I'm half vaccinated. Eventually I'll be able to leave the house.
I have my shot next week. So excited.
Yay.
Let's see. Sandra put the website for the National Caucus for Women in the Arts. And it's a really wonderful resource. And I'm a part of a global conversation about art. It's called the Wisdom for the Arts course. And on the 17th, the Saturday, the 17th, we have a community day where people can come. So I'll share some information about that.
Yeah, share that. Yeah. That sounds great.
All right. Well, let's bring it to a close. And thank you so much for being here. Clementine, it was so wonderful to see you again. It's been too long. Are you back in Atlanta, or are you elsewhere?
I'm in Michigan, but I am trying to visit more. And obviously my roots are here in Atlanta. It's much easier to interact. I tried to get into Detroit, but not so much, so easy. I'll just put it that way.
Well, try the National Caucus for Women in the Arts. Maybe you'll meet some other artists. I really do think it's like having a community of people around you is so important, right? Because when you have those moments where you stop believing in yourself, which pretty much almost everyone in the whole world has those moments, right? And then you have that community of people who sees you to be greater than you're willing to see yourself in those moments. All right?
Especially artists, we're very insecure.
Yeah, right.
Those moments.
A lot of internal chatter going on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, and everyone on Facebook Live, we'll see you later. Alligator and a wild crocodile, and we'll see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Nice to see you again, Annalise.
Yay.
Yay.